Our connections as human beings are primordial. They are not bound by time. These connections are not measured by time, though we often default to doing so. Our societal constructs are used to measure the impacts we have on each other. But when it comes to human connections, we are discussing this subject poorly. We are using the tools of our very own construction to deconstruct a problem these very tools have created. As such, I must propose a difficult task. We need a fresh perspective. So, if you are up to the challenge, we will unlock a new tool. And together, we will extend a helping hand and create the everlasting impacts we crave to see in our society today. To begin, we must define our human connection. By defining what we share in common at a fundamental level, we may understand what variables influence our behavior and how we describe the collective behaviors we undergo as a people. Then, we explore the ecosystem of humanity. I will explain how we measure the relevancy and value of the relationships we hold in this ecosystem and what the factors that expulse biased thinking are. Shifting our focus away from ourselves, we look outward. For this is an exercise in building out. Our connections are not top-down, nor are they bottom-up. Let's leave these antiquated models for antiquated thinkers. And let's shift our thinking. How are we structured as individuals? Well, there are several schools of thought that produce scientific, theological, and mystical interpretations of what human beings are. And I like the Kabbalistic structure, so let's explore it. There are 3 categories and 10 emanations. First, the superconscious, of which our hidden light is the first emanation. This can be thought of as our soul. Second, the conscious intellect, of which wisdom and understanding are the second and third emanation. Finally, our conscious emotions, where we find the other 7 emanations: kindness, discipline, compassion, victory, splendor, foundation, and humility. In this structure, each subject or node is connected directly or indirectly to different parts of ourselves. There are different pathways which we require to produce kindness than, say, discipline, for example. And we begin to understand our individual structure as the pathways we take to produce the outcomes we desire. What are the steps we take to fulfill the purpose we have? What our daily habits are and what our impulses are? How does it affect us? The secret of our connections with others can be found within. We may walk the path of life all by ourselves, but we are never alone. Human beings group together. We march forward with an idea and find comfort in its validation. We are propagated by nothing else but our needs and desires. We care a lot about value. So what? Is that such a bad thing anyway? At this point, we must shift away from a mindset that looks at good or bad. Value is not a binary concept. It is never black or white, right or wrong in the eyes of the universe. For the immediate outcomes of any given task may not have an overall net positive effect, this does not mean it was not valuable. We must define value as how close to our purpose we arrive to. What percentage of our effort has created something for the greater good? A common problem we face in understanding value arises from the trope of being such forward thinkers. This causes us to fall out of the present moment and measure the outcome we are having on the future, as if tomorrow was promised and were so easy to do. It is my fundamental belief that the steps we implement today are the foundations we create for the incoming day. So when we talk about value, we have to ask ourselves what impact it has on our collective right now. We have no idea what the future holds, so we must be in a continuous cycle of change. Our positive, purpose-led work comes to no end, but we experience infinite tension and release. We walk step by step after all, because human beings do not fly. And as we progress, we become equipped to tackle the uncertainties that we will face tomorrow. Let's leave the top-down or bottom-up approaches, because technological advancements increase the connections we share with people day by day, and our future is decentralized. Now that we know how to measure value, how do we lead a network that is not top-down or bottom-up? It seems rather daunting, doesn't it? If we are decentralized, how on earth do we get any work done? It's actually not as hard as you can imagine. We do so by means of influential people, ecosystem leaders. Ecosystem leaders are passionate and purpose-driven. Their purpose is not personal, it transcends their individuality. They thrive off connecting people, watching seeds being planted and new life being breathed into dormant souls. This is where the impulse of change creates value. The final piece of this puzzle is the system that measures network strength and influence. And for this, I propose 3 different factors. The first, activities per capita. How much activity is produced by a certain number of individuals to improve a situation or provide a solution to a problem? The second is nodes per capita. How many connections are created by a certain number of individuals? This can also be interpreted as the outreach of increasing degrees that we share in our connections. The further the connections, the more opportunities there are. The third and final factor is hardship. Hardship can be defined as a structural policy barrier, but it can also manifest as a lack of diversity or economic disadvantages and other kinds of barriers which result in a high percentage of informal business. If we want to ensure our society is adequately equipping itself with the tools to create a rich, sustainable, and resilient entrepreneurial ecosystem, we have to change today. The realist will tell you that things are never going to change anyway. But that's not true. We change. Our perspectives change. We do not grow alone. We grow with others. So let's focus together on finding our purpose.